This is a morel mushroom. They're one of the most sought after mushrooms in the world, and I've ventured out here to British Columbia in Canada to learn about a phenomenon which occurs every year on the wildfire sites deep in the Canadian woods. And it's not just this one here, there are thousands of these. In fact, no, there's probably millions of these mushrooms. But why are there so many mushrooms here, and why do people love them so much? Well, over the next few days, I'm going to be camping out here in the Canadian wilderness, and we're hopefully going to learn a lot about these interesting little mushrooms.
My name's Alex, and I've been interested in mushrooms ever since some friends took me mushroom foraging in Germany in 2019. I became obsessed with mushroom foraging, and over the following years I've been lucky enough to travel around the world looking for mushrooms in some of the most beautiful locations. However, there's one species of mushroom which has mostly eluded me. I say mostly because I have actually been fortunate enough to find these mushrooms twice in England. Once in a flower bed next to Battersea Power Station in London, and again this spring in another flower bed on a Bristol industrial estate. However, last year I stumbled across a YouTube video of a group of guys in Canada who were picking hundreds of kilograms of morel mushrooms. Of course, I had to find out more, and I got speaking with Phil, who actually made the video I had seen in the first place, and he very kindly invited me out to experience what goes on during the morel mushroom foraging season in British Columbia. It was quite the journey. From the UK, it was a 10-hour flight to Vancouver, and then from Vancouver I took a smaller plane north and across the mountains to Prince George, where I got picked up by Randy, who is Phil's dad. We drove another 2 hours off the main roads and into a huge forest that had been burnt last year by a forest fire. Just off the dirt track was Phil and Randy's camp, where they had been living for the past month.
Thank you, thanks for the lift.
Alex,
Hello!
good to meet you.
Well, it feels like I already know you, I've seen you on the films.
Likewise.
It's good to be here.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
This is where you've been living.
Yeah, for the last month. There you go.
Whoa! Chicken.
Chicken and veg.
Oh, it smells really good.
I enjoyed it.
You just went for a quick walk.
This one's a different kind.
Wow.
Those are all the same kind. And you can see there's two walls. It's double walled.
Yeah. That looks like a beautiful patch of land to put my tent on. First thing I need to do is set up my tent. I've actually got this, it's like a one-man lightweight tent. I got it for like hiking. Now I've heard it's been pretty cold in the night, but I'm hoping my sleeping bag will be warm enough. That's the tent all set up.
Whilst I was settling in and organising my stuff, I noticed Phil and Randy processing some mushrooms that had been picked over the past few days. This is when I started to realise the scale of this operation. There weren't just a few mushrooms here, and it wasn't just Phil and Randy picking them either. There were loads of guys out here.
These ones have a bag. We're doing jumbos. So these are all huge morels.
Oh.
They're dried now. So they would have been 2.5 times that size when they were fresh. So there's no dirt on them, or very, very minimal. They're clean. They have no spore on them. And they all have a relatively nice, recognizable shape.
So behind me, Phil is currently buying some mushrooms from a guy. Apparently there's this 80-year-old, he still is out there collecting loads of mushrooms, and these guys buy the mushrooms, the fresh mushrooms off them. There's been a few people turn up in the past hour, like this guy, who are just selling Phil and Randy the mushrooms. It's quite interesting how this whole business works.
This is where I live for the time being. I have my tent underneath the tarps here, and then I've just done a bit of bushcrafting to keep the rain and the sunshine off of my tent so that it lasts longer. Because we're out here for quite a while, it really does help. And we've had some serious thunder showers recently. The fire is always the communal hearth of the camp. It's where we like to, we all sit, we gather around it. We built a nice bench here. We do this for a couple of reasons. One, it looks kind of nice having the big fire. We had to gather all these rocks before the season really started. And we like to build the fire pit into a bank of soil if there is one, because it protects, if there's high wind, which there often is in northern Canada, the flame is there's a wall of rock to protect the flame from getting on the trees, to prevent starting another forest fire. So underneath the fire, there's a 2 to 3 foot deep pit of rocks about this size, that we dug underneath and filled. And then here, inside of here, there's a hollow tube of aspen tree bark that acts like a funnel. And we pour our dirty wash water from our dishes into here, and it funnels down underneath the fire, and it burns off under the fire and hides the smell of the dirty meat water and dirty food water. And that's one of the ways that we're bear safe out here. This is our oven. We can cook all of our food in here if we need to. Big meals, chicken dinner.
That chicken you cooked earlier was really good, by the way.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Right on.
Just what I needed after a long plane journey.
Okay, then in here, what we've done is we have a pop-up sunshade, which is pretty lightweight. And then this is we call this a Quonset tent. It's a little bit more sturdy, but both of these normally wouldn't survive in the Canadian bush. They get blown away. We've seen it dozens of times. Last year, somebody had a bigger one of these, and we watched it spiral 30 feet in the air and cross the Klondike Highway in the Yukon. And the reason was they didn't have it bolted down. So what we do is, on all of our corners of our structures, we hammer in rebar and put bungee cords. So when the wind hits it, it has a bit of flex strength, and it's all tied together. This is our dish rack. So we put our hot wash water in here, wash the dishes, rinse them in here. These pop out, so all the wash water goes into one and then it gets dumped in the fire. And then this is our dish drainer. And this is where we wash our hands constantly. They don't stay clean for long when you're in a burn. So we're always doing that. And then over here, this is our cook stove, drinking water. We store our food in here, and it's all insulated, so we can have ice last for 2 to 3 weeks in here if we're using block ice. When you're 100 kilometers in the bush, that can save a lot of gas money. And then here's the mushroom dryer. Often in the Canadian bush, we have ice fog, cold 2 degrees and foggy. It's very hard to dry mushrooms in that weather. So we pull the air through our dryer and duct it from our dry wood stove room behind me. The air comes down, comes up through the mushrooms, which are in here. The fan sits here, and then it also blows out so that our overflow can take advantage of the excess air that's coming out this side. And even on a foggy, snowy day, we're pulling dry air. Okay, so this is the inside of the dryer. The door we use, we need to get it out of our way when we're working because we're in an enclosed space. The way I've designed this is it has a metal bar with holes in it, and that fits onto 2 pins. So when I'm working with the dryer, I can take the door right off and get it out of my way. Inside here, there's these nice drawers, and they're full of mushrooms right now. A very nice species of morel that only grow on wildfires. And these are greens, these are grays. And all these drawers are full. Normally when you dry morels, you wouldn't be able to put them this deep, but we have so much airflow from a big fan that we are able to do this. If you don't have a lot of airflow, you need to spread them out thin on racks. Down below here, there's a vent that we can control. When you start the mushrooms, you want as much air as you can. And this intake, the ducting goes in the one side. When we need more air, we can pull the ambient air from here through into this compression chamber, and the air has a chance to mix before it goes through the mushrooms briefly. That allows the air, because we're pulling, the air is very even through the mushrooms. There's no dead spots in the racks. In here is a big fan. Usually I like to pick my own mushrooms, but today was my day off. And so I bought some of these mushrooms from some of our friends who are out here on the fire. And they bring us really nice mushrooms, and we gave them a little bit better price than the average price here in the field. And they're bringing us beautiful quality mushrooms that we can dry. So this is where we finish the mushrooms and sit in the morning when it's cold out and have our coffee. Having a wood stove in the bush when it's cold is very nice. So once the mushrooms are almost dried, they come into here and they sit above the wood stove to do what's called heat flashing. And at a certain point, they'll be completely dry. And then the product is finished. We bag it up, put it in a box, and bring it home. The wood stove's on low right now. At times it's like a sauna in here. It's hard to be in here. It's like 40 degrees, 50 degrees ambient heat. The top of the wood stove is 360 Fahrenheit. So it's pretty warm. And even when it's freezing out, we can come in here and dry off and stay warm. Now our system is incredibly efficient on fuel. It's very efficient. These fans are designed to run at a very low watt. So we can dry about 150 fresh pounds of morels on $20 in fuel.
Is it bad that I kind of like the smell of that?
So do I.
It's a weird sort of nice...
It smells good for about 20 seconds and then you can't smell it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn this back on. It just takes a sec.
And now you've got to put up with the noise.
Yeah, if you want a pair of earplugs, I have an extra set if it bothers you at night. That's completely dried.
It's huge.
It was really big. It was about that tall before, and like that.
And over here, a little bit away from the main camp, is the toilet, the outhouse. Basically a tarp for privacy, a little seat, and then you do your business in there. Lovely. That sunlight this evening. It's beautiful.
Randy started in the industry in the late 80s commercially harvesting. He's picked mushrooms his whole life, but he started in the late 80s during when it was more like a gold rush. I was born about 4 years after he started. So by the time I was born, he was full scale. He was a full scale commercial harvester. He was like in his peak. And he started his own wild mushroom company. So I spent a lot of time from the age of about 5 years old climbing the mountain and picking mushrooms since I could walk. And I spent a lot of time in the buying station or at the farmer's market. Just had wild mushrooms and wild foods around me my whole life. Very, very grateful for that because it's given me a real appreciation for the bounty of nature.
It's been a long day of travelling, but we're finally here. Don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a little tent in the middle of the woods. But tomorrow we're going to do some mushroom picking. Good night.
A mushroom in general is the fruiting body of the organism, and the organism lives under the ground. It's called mycelium. There's different types of mycelium, but the mushroom is the fruit. A simple analogy is like an apple off of a tree. So you can safely harvest the fruiting body without killing the host, the mycelium, like you can in an orchard. And for that reason, it's a very sustainable natural resource. I would argue that wild mushrooms, if harvested correctly and you're not doing damage, they might be one of the most sustainable food sources on the planet. Certainly the most sustainable natural resource. Now it's really like the ultimate Easter egg hunt. We go out into the Canadian wilderness, this vast, one of the largest wildernesses on the planet, and we hunt for different wild mushrooms and plants that people enjoy consuming.
So is this how every morning starts? Coffee?
Yes, it's the morning routine. We have to have it, otherwise Randy won't have a good day.
Whoa, that was close. I nearly put salt in my coffee. Wow, definitely the nicest place to sit this morning.
Yeah.
Can you go out picking when the mushrooms are wet, or is it ideal if they're dry?
The buyers in the field will usually close because they don't want to pay for water.
Yeah.
The water weight. Because we're drying the mushrooms, we can get the water off of them. So we could probably harvest right here, but I don't want to go too far in case it starts pouring rain. And we also need to get firewood. So that's sort of our task today.
So 2 things which aren't great to do in the rain.
Yeah.
We have to do.
We have to do them, yeah. This burn is all commercial harvesters.
Okay.
We're too far from a town for there to be any locals. It's over 100 kilometers from Prince George, so you're out of that local range. But it can become pretty competitive. People are like battling for certain patches and getting up before each other and trying to pick faster than everybody else. That's why I like finding somewhere secret and hiking in further.
Oh, I sneezed and kind of did a sneeze cough at the same time.
Oh, no.
And it tweaked that nerve in my back again.
So these are about 55% dry by feel. We were drying overnight in the rain, but we're almost there. Maybe another few hours, then they can go in the wood stove. And then these ones are about 45% dry. Look at that beast.
What are the chances of seeing a bear out here?
It's a pretty high chance. I mean, we're in bear country for sure. Like just north of us, there's more bears than almost anywhere in the world. Mostly black bears.
And are black bears less dangerous than
Yeah,
the brown bears? Are they?
they
Or
can be
grizzly?
curious, but they're less territorial. Well, it's grizzly bears you want to worry about.
Yeah.
They have a big hump on their back and they're a lot bigger. They're like a true predator animal.
Wow.
They'll eat black bears.
Really?
Yes.
Bears eating bears.
Not very often, but it does happen.
Yeah.
A grizzly bear is often more aggressive if you're in its territory, but they also migrate. So if you're just in the migratory area, it's sometimes not as big of an issue, but if you see a grizzly bear, it's a lot more concerning than seeing a black bear. And we'll see 20 black bears to 1 grizzly bear.
In England, you see no bears unless you go to London Zoo, maybe.
So some of these pieces we could take right now. I think we should.
This? Look at that. And then when you're back at camp, we'll
Buck it up. That's called bucking when you split the log like that.
Nice.
There's some firewood.
Woohoo! Oh, it's lovely and warm in here. It's pretty noisy around the camp because there's the generator which is going, which is drying the mushrooms, and then Phil is on the chainsaw cutting up some of the firewood that we found earlier on today. But yeah, we haven't been able to get out mushroom picking because of the rain. It's been a day of firewood and staying warm in this little fire room, and he's been processing a load of these logs. Look at that, these are massive, great big logs. Smells really nice. I think we're gonna go looking for some mushrooms this afternoon.
So we always have bear spray. Ideally you keep it on you. I have it on a carabiner, and hopefully you don't have to use it. I also bring a bear banger, which is my first defense. It's basically like, it makes a loud noise like a gunshot. Ready?
Oh.
I've used it quite a few times. The firing pin with a pin, you draw that back, boom, it shoots off that cartridge. When you use this, you want to actually fire it straight up in the air, not towards the bear. You're not trying to shoot the bear, you're trying to make a loud noise. And people have made the mistake of firing them at the bear. It blows up behind the bear and scares it towards them. But for this demonstration, we're going to shoot it straight out because I don't think there's a bear right now. Ready? And we probably just scared the camp down the road. It's not a toy, but it's good to give a demonstration. It's pretty loud, right? I've probably ran into about 40 in the burn while picking over the years. And almost every single time they've run before I've seen them because they saw me first. Maybe 20 times I've had to shoot the bear banger, but that wasn't because it was aggressive. It was more of a precaution. It didn't see me, and so I like to scare it away before there's an issue. There was one time I had a bit of a fright, but nobody was hurt in the end, and the bear wasn't injured. I always bring water because if you get dehydrated and you're stumbling around, it can get dangerous in the burn. I have a GPS. This will track my location and everywhere I've walked. So if I get confused, I can follow my line out. But as a backup, in case my batteries die or the GPS fails, I have a compass. Sometimes I'll bring a drone with me if I'm going in really far, and food, water, first aid. Yeah, a bucket. I've got my camera. You don't need to bring one of those, but you can if you want. And then I have an extender on here. My bucket has holes for two reasons. One, the mushrooms will be ventilated that way. They won't overheat on a hot day. That's the main reason. As a bonus, spores can fall out of the more mature mushrooms and spread spore to new areas where there isn't already mycelium, and you can grow the mushroom beds, essentially, just from walking them out. It's like spreading seeds. And then this closes up. I can cover the mushrooms when it's raining, and I can almost double my capacity on my bucket. It comes up to here. So instead of fitting 12 pounds of morels, I can fit about 18. I think what we should do is, we've harvested this a dozen times, but the mushrooms keep growing here. We've been farming this whole hillside. I think we should go up over this hill, through a bit of a flat zone on the top of the hill, and then it'll come down into a harder burn where it's black burn in a little ravine. I think we should go check over there and try to get a few mushrooms. Try to find a few different species of mushroom. One of the indicators for us of where we are in the season is this plant right here. So this is called liverwort. And when the liverwort is at this size, we know that we're late in the season. This also indicates that there's been lots of water in the area. It's a water-loving plant. So if you see this, you know that there's a pretty good chance of morels because mushrooms like water.
So for this first outing into the woods, I'm not collecting any myself, I'm just watching how Phil does it, trying to learn sort of the process, like at what stage to harvest the mushrooms. Oh look, we found one.
So this one here is in the Morchella conica complex. We call them conicas. It's a group of different mushrooms that look quite similar. And this mushroom is too old, so you harvest it. This one is no good to keep for a number of reasons. One, when you squeeze it, it's lost its structural integrity and it's spongy. The stipe here has little bumps on it and it's as wide as the cap. So it's starting to do what's called blowing out, which is the final stage of the mushroom's maturing process. So it's no good for eating. It's a little too old for what we're looking for, but it has released spore into the area, which is nice.
So it's not just about finding the mushroom, it's finding the mushroom at the right stage.
Yes, and the right stage, as well as they need to be clean. They need to not have any other issues like worms or blemishes or mold. There's a mold that attacks some morels. So there's a huge grading process. And we grade while harvesting, we grade while drying, and we grade after drying. So this one here, this is the Morchella tomentosa. They're known as the gray or the blonde fire morel. They're an amazing variety, one of my favorites. And this one's growing at the roots of a big burnt spruce tree. As they grow and they become exposed to sunlight, they'll change in color from gray to blonde. So if you find them in a spot that's more shaded as it grows and it never gets exposed to sunlight, sometimes they'll stay gray and be nice and big. And those ones are really sought after. But we're gonna harvest this one. So we'll cut it like this. And you can see it was growing kind of funny. This is also known as the fuzzy foot morel, and it has little tiny like trichome-like hairs on it. It's also double walled. So it has two walls, almost as if there's a mushroom inside of the mushroom, and that gives them a great texture. These are one of my favorite varieties. Unique to wildfires. Currently, science says that they're only found in Western North America, although we know otherwise. They are found in some other places.
And then what's the process? You pop it in the bucket?
Yeah, put it in the bucket, make sure your bucket's clean, and try to fill the whole bucket. So there's the conica. You can see it's done. There's spore threads on there. and this species is still nice and fresh. So the whole cycle with this variety, this group of species, we're done with that on the burns at this point in the season. We're looking for these. There's one more right there. That's as small as we'll pick them, but these are very sought after. Great example. You'll also see on this variety that the stipe, the stem, has a dark, sort of like black velvety color and texture. They're more drought tolerant, they can handle more extreme weather temperatures, and they dry much nicer in general. This one here has been exposed to sunlight, so it's actually turned blonde. Same species.
So they are the same species.
That one was a little bit younger and it was hiding underneath the log, whereas the other one was more in the open. They're a little too old. They have that spongy feeling. I'm gonna show you up close. They're releasing spores. So this here, this isn't cottonwood or willow. This is actually from the spore. It creates like a filament sort of thread on there.
I thought it was like seeds.
No, well, they can be confusing because the willow seeds can also get stuck on the mushrooms. But you can tell these are spore because it's a darker yellow color and there won't be a seed in the middle. This one also had been sunburned, that's why it went that color. And so it had dried out on the top and then was rained on and rehydrated. So it's no good.
This landscape is like nowhere else I've ever been. It's like a different planet. So these trees would have fallen down because the plant burnt and then the roots died and then the tree is weak so it falls in the wind.
A lot of them will have, this one for sure. Those ones were down before it burned. Those more blackened one, but this one here that has the branches on it, that's fallen since it burned. It's a little bit dirty, but it's still nice and fresh. This is one of the other species of late stage fire morels. This is the Morchella exuberans, also known as the green fire morel. And when they're young, when they're young like this, they don't look green. They have a bit of a silvery color, gray silvery color, really big flat ridges. One of the best mushrooms in my opinion, possibly my favorite. And as they get older, they'll turn green, similar to how the gray turns blonde. These will slowly turn olive colored.
So to conclude, there are around 70 studied species of mushrooms in the Morchella genus. However, we would be looking for just a few species which are unique to burn sites. Morchella sextillata and Morchella examia, the common name for these on burn sites is conicas because of their conical shape. Morchella tomentosa, often referred to as the grey or blonde morel, and Morchella exuberans, the green fire morel. I'll be honest, even after a few days of looking for these mushrooms, I still found it quite hard to differentiate the species. Sometimes they can look pretty similar, especially to the untrained eye like mine. You might be wondering why people don't just farm these mushrooms and save on all the hard work out in the field. Well, people actually do, but the process seems quite tricky and secretive. Because of the complex life cycle of the morel, they need the perfect environment to actually fruit. I wanted to learn more about farming morels, so I contacted the Danish Morel project, who have actually successfully cultivated these mushrooms, and I asked if I could visit their project and learn more. However, I was instantly rejected, and completely understandably, as you wouldn't want your trade secrets getting out. So farming morels can be done, but in places where there's an abundance of wild mushrooms growing, it makes sense to forage for them. But it still comes with huge travel costs, lots of labour and much research and time spent scouting out likely looking mushroom hotspots.
And why do morels grow on burn sites?
It's actually partially a scientific mystery still, but there's a lot of theories, and then the number one theory is, well, they're a carbon adapted species of mushroom. And when things burn, it releases all that carbon. All their competition is burned away, and they like the carbon, whereas everything else is gone. And then also the host trees often die, so that there's theories that's why the mushrooms fruit. It's because their host has died, so they need to send out spores to get to new areas where there's still living trees, which we're lucky enough to be able to help them do as we carry the mushrooms around. We're always looking for the burns that burned the previous summer, and the later burning fires are usually best. But we get maps from the government. They release the maps publicly that show where all the burn perimeters are. So that narrows down where our patches are. Basically, we know we're inside of one of those perimeters. So it's all about picking which fire to go to. And that's, I spent a lot of time on that process online. You know, looking at forestry maps and tree types and scanning the GPS for where the bogs are and finding the right ground. So we try to have a shorter stem on burns, about 1/4 inch or less is the commercial standard in Canada to limit debris on the mushrooms. But for personal consumption, the stem is fine to eat. Nothing wrong with it. It's just the commercial standard to keep them short. The greens are the hardest to find, they're camouflaged.
So today already I've seen more morel mushrooms than I have in my entire life. In England, we do have morel mushrooms. People do find them, but just not in these numbers. And I mean, we don't really have big burn sites like this either. But for me, coming from England and seeing this, it's like mushroom heaven. It really is kind of something special.
So you can see here how dirty the stem gets when it rains hard.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep them short, to limit, because all that debris will get worked into these pits and ridges and it's hard to get out. So believe it or not, this patch, because we've harvested it so many times and it's finishing here, this is a very low volume morel harvest for what we usually look for. It's sort of the last pick in this ground.
This is just crazy, walking around this mad looking landscape, burnt down forests, and finding mushrooms which also look kind of crazy. One of the most fascinating things I've ever experienced though.
Morels all through here, but they're all too old.
Oh yeah. Phil's talking to a bird. Oh, some big ones.
The birds called us over here. So in these open black areas, you do have to watch that the soot can splash more on the mushroom. So when we dry them, we try to get rid of that and tumble it off once they're dry and they're durable, as well as the benefit of dried morels, because they rehydrate better than other mushrooms. You get to wash them when you go to cook them. You can thoroughly rinse them and be a lot harder on them when they're dehydrated than when they're fresh. There's 4 more here.
So at some point last summer, this would have been a pretty raging fire. It's hard to imagine. So you want to leave like not much stem.
Yeah.
There we go, just picked my first 2 morel mushrooms. And these are the blonde ones.
Yes.
Oh wow, there's quite a few in there now.
Yeah.
So this patch here, this is squirrel business.
Yeah, he was probably sitting on this branch,
yeah.
eating his cones, and he likes to hang out here and eat them.
And also there's some more morels.
When you're all set up, you have the right gear, and you're able to really take advantage of a good harvest, and you're prepared for it. On a good year, a basket an hour is considered about par. That's our sort of standard we aim for. Sometimes we find patches where we get a basket in 20 minutes. That's 12 pounds in 20 minutes. But you're going to tire yourself out. So if you can get anything over 50 pounds in a day, that's a pretty good day. An exceptional day would be like 150, but that's like, you know, you only do that a few times in your career. Randy has had some amazing harvests where he's done a 300-pound day before. But that is, it's not a common thing. My best day this season was 119 pounds. That's a very nice one. That's really what we're looking for right there. That will be graded into the AAA grade, display grade product. I could pick those all day.
So the crazy thing is, we are not picking way more than we're picking. Like there are mushrooms all over the ground here. Like almost everywhere you look, there's another group of mushrooms. So there is a prime example of some morels which are too old to pick. They're more like squishy, less dense. And they'll probably have a bad smell, right?
Yeah, a really bad smell. And their stipe is elongated.
But they're doing their thing.
Yep.
Phil just said he's found some more greens. The green ones are pretty prized at the moment. Look at that.
That doesn't get much nicer than that. That's what we want.
So that was about an hour and a half of mushroom picking. For me, it feels like we found loads, but that was actually a very small pick compared to what is possible out here. But I've learned lots talking to Phil and watching him pick, and I'm gonna attempt over the next few days to do some picking myself and see if I can help out with the mushroom harvest.
Got some more?
Right next to camp.
So what's the process now? Where do we put these?
We'll go put them on the drying racks.
I've had a rough season. I just kept getting injured. I was doing really good. We were working hard, and Adams Lake was really hilly, and I was getting in really good shape, just banging up the hills, and then I got here and then I poked my Achilles tendon.
Although Randy couldn't come out picking much, he still prepared us food each day and kept the fire going at camp to dry the mushrooms.
So are you always like looking for new areas?
Yeah, usually. I mean, I've checked so many spots on this burn. I must have checked, like I stopped the vehicle in probably over 100 spots and gone on a hike. But I did find a few spots where I could stay there for 5-6 days and just pick mushrooms.
Going for a little explore. We found a lake. Not just any old lake. This is a big lake. Look at this.
Oh, it's cold!
Had a nice little paddle, refreshed myself, and just splashed some cold water over my face. Makes me feel a lot better. You can see the mosquito bites from last night. Oh, they got me all around where my socks were. So my socks came up to there and then I just got bitten. Same on the other side. You'd think it was someone with an axe.
Well, the funny thing is, here's the log that it was chewed off.
Oh yeah.
The tree was actually cut. So all he did was gnaw that chunk off.
What was Mr. Beaver thinking? Beaver was there. Look at that, you can see its little teeth marks.
Yeah.
We have reached a rather deep, big puddle, and we're just contemplating whether we go through it in the truck. Because there's all this burn here. And Phil wants to check it out. Whoa, man, that's a bad smelling puddle.
No kidding, what the heck?
What's going on?
I blame
with
the beaver for that one.
Yeah.
We might be onto something here. I didn't know this road existed. But somebody else might have picked this. Got one of those?
Nutrigrain. Kellogg's strawberry.
Woo!
Oh, nice. Yeah, that looks wonderful. Thank you.
So here's the bog below us, and then it's a big hill with a flat top, and then as you come down off of that, you would come into my patch, where right here we picked a lot of mushrooms, and we're right here now.
And there's not many at all.
There's nothing, yeah, almost none. That's how it goes.
Not everywhere is loaded. So we've got the 3 different types in the pan. So we're going to taste each of them. It's important to cook morels, isn't it?
You have to cook them, yeah. Do not eat them raw.
Because there's some mushrooms that you can eat raw, but these ones you need to cook.
There you go.
Thank you. You gotta be joking. It's like eating meat.
Yeah.
That is unreal.
I never get sick of it.
That was the grey one.
Mm-hmm.
Then this one is the green. So good. I mean, they're all incredible.
I like that one the most this time.
Yeah, this one. The texture, the crunch you get with it as well. There's just little bites of beautifulness. Mushroom. So good. It's not just the flavour though, it's the texture. This part of the mushroom, all those little holes and crevices, when that's fried, it just goes so incredibly crispy.
When prepping morels that have been dehydrated, all you need to do is give them a quick wash in a container, then cover them with water for about 10 minutes or so until they are fully rehydrated. Then you can go ahead and cook them like normal. These are now by far my favourite mushrooms to eat.
So tomorrow we're going to do something called packboarding, and Phil's going to show me how the packboard is set up and how it works. So what is a packboard?
We call them packboards because originally they were just boards of wood, like the Trapper Nelson, some of the older school ones. But now they're called pack frames because they're made of metal. So we're a little more old school. But basically it's just a backpack where it has backpack straps and really good hip straps, so you can get a lot of the weight onto your legs. And then you can strap whatever you need onto the back. This will fold down for you. And you can strap baskets. Sometimes people use them for hunting. You can do firewood, all sorts of things. So you're gonna want one basket dedicated to carrying gear, like your water, your camera gear, your lunch. I've got first aid in mine and all that stuff, so you don't need to worry about that. But you'll definitely want some food and stuff. We might not get enough to even have brought the pack boards, but I've had just as many times where I regretted not bringing it, and I only have my bucket and there's 10 buckets worth here. So I think the benefit of having your lunch and everything else with you is often worth bringing it. Tomorrow we're doing a longer hike, so I think it makes sense. There we go, that's what it'll look like heading out.
The bucket is like where you put the mushrooms in that you're collecting currently. Yeah. And then you once that's full, you pour it into
baskets. If you're in a good patch, you walk in the middle of it, put your pack board down. It's your lunch area. It's kind of like a checkpoint, and you'll pick around that in different little runs with your bucket and come back and dump into your baskets until your pack board's full, hopefully. That's the setup going out. You can still get in here. That's the benefit of bungees. If you use rope, this would be all super tight. You wouldn't be able to get into your basket. So you can kind of access your gear.
Everything tastes so good when you've been in a tent.
It was 1 degree last night.
What? It tastes great. Right, let's go. Mosquito bug spray. I'm putting it around my ankles. That's where I got bitten so bad. Oh, don't breathe that in. Gosh. We're going off the path. We've got to get across there.
How's the pack feel?
That's alright, yeah. It's a bit trickier than a school rucksack.
Yeah.
So this is the spot where Phil came recently, and you had a really good harvest here, right?
Yeah, I picked in this little area just around us. I had an 86-pound day, and I'd say 70 of that was here.
So we're basically back at that spot, hoping that there are fresh ones which have grown up. Bucket, secateurs. There's some over there. Whoa, man.
Beautiful.
is a lot of fun. There's a patch of 3 or 4. The lighter coloured ones are kind of easier to see from a distance. You can sort of scan a little bit further in front of you for them. But then the green ones are really dark and they can often blend into the ground so much better. So they're harder to find. There's these ones here, and then there's a big one over there, and then I can just see more and more in the distance. Oh, these are super dense. I'm hearing shouts of joy from Phil over here. Got these green morels here. Oh, more. That's an old one. You find a lot of mushrooms, but they're not all good. I got myself caught in a bog. Oh. Oh, that's a big one. That's probably the biggest one I've seen. Just spotted a big one. Oh, beast. Look at those. The bucket is slowly filling up. This guy is a pro.
You're doing great.
Like most of the bucket. There's still a fair few in there. So exciting though. Oh man, there's nothing better than like looking for something. It's like finding treasure every time. And the different species also makes it interesting. And we've arrived back at the packboards. I need something to drink. Water has never tasted so good. Look at that. It's unreal. Phil is flying the drone. Can be a good tool for finding new areas. Because obviously from up high you can see the burn site a lot easier.
On to the next one.
Let's go walking again. Let's go picking some more mushrooms. Well, hello. Hello there. A bear was here recently. 1, 2, 3, 4. These ones are all in the needles. Makes them actually a little bit easier to see sometimes, because it's a contrast in colour. So another, what's that, an hour of looking?
Yeah.
Phil's full bucket once again, my half full bucket. But yeah, pretty good. Here comes the rain. This is not nice weather to be out here. It's cold and it's raining. Wow. need more eyes. The whole ground here is just covered with them. There's 4 all growing together. Whoa, nice.
Yeah.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we're at 5 baskets already.
5 baskets. That's crazy. We go again. Wow. I've made it this far without getting my feet wet. I've got to get across this stream. Are we gonna make it? Yes, we are. Easy.
For the next 7 hours straight, we picked mushrooms, and it was probably the biggest workout I've ever done. Each time though, Phil would return to the packboards with a full bucket of mushrooms, and I'd always have half a bucket. It was so incredible how quick Phil could pick them.
Are you serious? Really?
Go up a mountain with that.
You guys are mad. Oh mate, even... Oh gosh.
I'm gonna put that in your bucket. I can't reach my bucket.
He's still picking. Phil is not a human. Like, I'm on the edge of breaking up that hill, and I've only got 2 baskets of mushrooms.
This right here is the best part of the whole day.
What a crazy day.
Mushrooms in here.
Not just some.
A fair few.
So the process now is to weigh them and then get them drying.
There's our big haul.
Well, that's really good. I was really hoping that that was going to work out, and it did. And you got to see a whole bunch of mushrooms for real. It's just not video, so got to experience what it's like.
Yeah, I thought your guys' videos were fake. I thought there can't be that many mushrooms.
We have had some comments. This can't be real. Is this fake?
But no, it's real.
Yeah, we're doing it.
I can confirm.
Sometimes we don't find this many. Sometimes we walk and we get nothing.
Beauties. Ooh.
I don't know what to think. Maybe I'm in a mushroom dream. Oh wow, this is our haul from today. That is ridiculous. 7 hours of foraging. So the process now will be drying them.
Yeah.
Starting the drying process.
Yep. We'll weigh them up first so we can check our dry rate.
I'll take those and I'm going to put over here when I've weighed them. 11.86, 11.87, 11.21. Second to last, 11.92, 10.24.
81.84 pounds. 37.2 kilos. If I harvested that by myself, that'd be a really good day. Not like top, but a good, really solid day. For the two of us, getting about 40 pounds each is an average day during a good season. But for these species, this quality, that makes up for that, and it's quite, I'd say it's pretty good.
So is that every single draw fill?
Yeah. Just about. We could have put a bit more. I'd say we are at like 80% capacity, 82% capacity. It's a 100-pound dryer.
And now the generator's going on and we can't hear anything properly, and
It's been nice to know you.
and the drying begins. What we getting?
Wash water from a creek.
Wash water. Water that we don't drink. Water that we wash with. Gosh, I think I'm tired.
It's like half of my shots are like that.
Yeah.
Become part of the human.
You just start talking and then wonder what you're talking about and why you're even here. It's turned out to be quite a nice day.
Yeah.
Sun's finally come out. Oh, what's that? A chipmunk?
Yeah.
What? Spot the chipmunk. Alvin. We got some water. That's quite cool. Oh, whoa. That was a hard day's work. Normally when I go foraging for mushrooms I have a nice relaxing day, but today was far from that. I've been bitten by mosquitoes all over my legs, all over my head, all over my face, my back. So itchy. The generator's on, making a load of noise, the fire's on, heating up the warm room, the mushrooms are in the process of drying. I've only done one day of it and I'm knackered. These guys have been out here for the last month. At the same time as it being quite tiring and hard work, it's also so much fun. Like finding mushrooms, the process of spotting a mushroom and then going over, picking it, putting it in the basket is just something which doesn't seem to get old. And it's pretty mad to think that those mushrooms that we picked today will end up being sent around the world to be enjoyed by people. I think I'm gonna sleep well tonight, and I need to because I've got 3 more days of this. 3 more days of picking mushrooms. It certainly isn't luxury out here. I haven't had a wash since I came out. I'm wearing the same clothes. I feel dirty, I need a wash, but at the same time, I love it. We're in proper wilderness country. Not often you can say that you are actually in the wilderness. Anyway, signing out for the day. I'm gonna get some rest. We're gonna let the mushrooms dry and get on with the job and do some more mushroom picking tomorrow. Nothing better than some fresh coffee in the morning. Had a really weird dream last night. Can't remember what it was about. I wish I could remember. It was very odd. Another day in camp. I don't know what I'm doing today. Today I was going to learn about grading the mushrooms.
We grade when we harvest and when we're drying, but then once we're done drying, we do another big grading pass. And I'm basically grading into different categories. The way we sell our mushrooms, we like to divide the species up. So we'll have the Conica species separated from the green fire morels and from the gray and the blonde fire morels. I'm also grading out any mushrooms that aren't pretty and perfect looking into a wholesale grade, and any really big mushrooms into their own grade. And I just go through all the mushrooms slowly, and it gives me a chance to look for any bad ones if there are any, and it's really good to have eyes on the product. Some people worry that there might be a false morel mixed in, which we would never harvest. But if that were to happen, and it never has, over all the years it's never happened, but if it were to happen, we would definitely see it again right now. There's an example of one. That one had a break in it, so that becomes wholesale. That one is display grade, AAA. It's a Morel tomatosa. Its stipe is still dark, which means it was a younger mushroom. This would have been this big, so it means it was maturing quickly while it was still really fresh. It didn't slowly grow, it grew quickly. All of its ridges and pits are nice and close together and tight. It's got all of its color, no sunburning, no debris. It's a perfect mushroom.
So it's been what, 24 hours since we put them in here?
Mm-hmm.
Can we see how they're getting on?
Yeah. It was the first 18 hours or so was slow because it was raining, and then in the last 6 hours they've really caught up. So they're just about ready to flash. I could put these on the heat flashing now, actually. All 4 drawers are almost full, right? And now they'd almost fit just over 1 drawer. So they get around 30% of their original size, but then once we heat flash them, probably about 25% or less. We are putting them onto the heat flashing rack, where they will finish drying. These ones are pretty clean, but this will help get any debris off there.
That's all the mushrooms you guys picked yesterday.
Where have they all gone?
This here room, this is the mushroom, because there's not mushroom left in here.
That was a dad joke on Father's Day, by the way. At the end of my time in high school, over a decade ago, a friend of mine and myself, we started getting into the music scene on Vancouver Island, which is quite a vibrant music scene. And while we were still in high school, we started playing a lot of bar shows. And we'd go in and we'd play our set, and during our intermission we were actually underage, so we had to go wait outside in the cold in between our sets. And then by the time we graduated, we went full on into music for about 3 years. We did a music festival circuit, pooled our money in the first year, what we were making, and bought a 1986 camper van and toured around Vancouver Island and that area playing festivals and bars, and did that for a while up until I did my first mushroom season. I went back to school for horticulture, and I was doing that in the winters, and then in the warm months I would go mushroom picking for 2 to 6 months of the year, depending on the weather. That sort of took over my life and I left music behind. But since starting my YouTube channel, I was able to start strumming a little again.
Because all your videos, you make the music for the videos.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
For better or for worse. So I would do the dance rhythm on the guitar while playing like this. So I'd do the kick drum with my hand, and it would get picked up inside the guitar. And then a friend of mine could go crazy on a djembe drum, and he didn't need to follow the main rhythm, so it freed him to do whatever he wanted. And so and then play the guitar while doing that.
That's so cool. It's good that you can still do the music a little bit. Like you can bring your guitar on these camps. You have time to, like in the evenings and...
Yeah, and when I'm watching camp alone, when Randy goes to town, yeah, it keeps me from going bush crazy sometimes, being able to strum the guitar in the bush, because it can get a little lonely out here sometimes.
You saying earlier, it feels like a different life back when you
Yeah,
did the music.
it was a different era of my life. Good times though. Just cruising around in a camper van, meeting people, playing dance shows. Yeah, really, really nice time in my life.
Roughly how many hours after we started drying are we?
Oh, this is like 2 days because we took our time with these ones. They were nice, and this variety is very difficult to dry. Often it doesn't take nearly that long, but late full maturity green fire morels are the hardest to dry, and they look good. So that's the important thing. They were dried nicely. We still have to grade these, but we're going to get our overall weight first, and then we'll grade them afterwards.
Okay, so the scale is set up.
We tear the basket weight, so when I take that off, it's the baskets minus the basket's weight, and then I have the same baskets, so that whatever weight this says is the mushroom weight only. 4.20 there.
4.17.
8.34 pounds of dried, which is just under 10 to 1. 10 to 1 is the industry standard. We often get lower than that, but when the mushrooms are wet, we picked these while it was raining, so we had water weight when we weighed them fresh, and that usually is why we say 10 to 1 for that reason. They're also mature mushrooms. So considering the weather and the stage of growth, 10 to 1's good. Often it'll be 12 to 1 at this point in the season.
So I'm going to smuggle some back to the UK. So we've seen the process now, from picking these mushrooms in the woods to the finished thing. Like, this is ready to rehydrate and eat. And I can't go back to England without taking some of these with me to share with like my friends and family back home. Got this little Ziploc bag. Oh, look at that beautiful mushroom. And then we have a bag of dried morel mushrooms ready to go back with me to England.
After a couple more days of looking for mushrooms, it was clear that the season here was coming to an end. There were less and less quality mushrooms to be found, but this didn't mean it was time for Randy and Phil to head home. Instead, they planned to follow the season north, where they hoped the morels were still fruiting well. So a day was spent packing up camp before they dropped me off at the airport and continued their journey north, where there was still work to be done. My interest in mushrooms has led me on all sorts of fascinating adventures over the past few years, and the last week has been incredible. It's been a dream of mine to find morel mushrooms, and what I've experienced here in Canada was so far beyond my expectations. Not only did I find more mushrooms than I've ever found in my whole life, I also learned a little about the wild food industry in Canada, and I met two really great hard-working people who were so open to share their knowledge and let me join them in their camp for a few days. I want to say a big thanks to Randy and Phil for their hospitality, and if you found this video interesting and you want to learn more about the wild foods of Canada, definitely check out their YouTube channel. And if you want to get your hands on dried morel mushrooms, then click the link in the video's description where you can actually buy them and try them for yourself. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.